Please welcome anchor Squawk Box Europe, CNBC, Steve Sedgwick.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for that warm welcome. Look, I can tell you Barcelona is a city which is very, very close to my heart. I've been here a lot over the years, but I've never been more delighted to be in Barcelona than I am now. I have had the week from, well, not a good week. Let me just tell you where I've been on my previous 2 trips. I'm so pleased to be back here talking about a positive story. I got told I had to go to Kiev late last week to talk about Zelensky tapes about Trump. So there I was on the Kiev streets as well. Then I had to go to Manchester, where I've just flown in from. Brexit, Boris Johnson. So thank goodness you guys. I've got to the middle of the week, and now I can talk about something positive, because this is a positive story, I can tell you. We're going to be talking about IoT. You know IoT. I don't need to tell you about that. Powering the digital economy. But there is a really, really important part of the digital economy. And that is something that you know, that your customers know. Maybe you are the customers who know how challenging it is and how exciting it is. And that is how can small and medium-sized enterprises thrive in this environment rather than have barriers in this environment as well. So let's just go on straight onto this topic. How can digitization enable SMEs to thrive? No Brexit, no Trump, just digitization, a very positive message I'm hoping to get from our panelists today. Let me say, though, before that, we are going to have a very short chat, 8 to 10 minutes. He wants it quicker, but we're going to go long, with Jean-Pascal Tricoire, who is the CEO of Schneider Electric. So let's give him a really warm round of applause and get him up on stage. Start. I didn't know it was Dress Down Wednesday. I would have changed my outfit.
I'm sorry, I forgot my tie. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're all amongst friends here.
You are in Barcelona. You are not in Manchester anymore. So, you know, the temperature is not the same.
Honestly, I'm trying to think other things, but apparently my Prime Minister has come up with a new plan today. It's the latest new plan. But look, something that's a bit more longevity, that's got a longer term plan, is digitization. Unlike Brexit, we know that actually this one's got real firm roots and can actually enable people to thrive. I was going to start off by asking you just a really basic, open, easy question. Why to you are SMEs so important amidst the digitization evolution stroke revolution? But then I know why. Because I found an article about you on the 3rd of September in the Financial Times. And there was a couple of little questions at the bottom. And one of them was, if you weren't a CEO, what would you be? Well, he said I'd be a CEO. No, but he did say, I'll be a CEO of a small company or an NGO. You said that, yes? Yeah. Good, the FT's got something right for a change. Yeah. So, why do you feel so passionately about SMEs? And why would you even want to be an SME?
Well, because the company that I lead, Schneider, is first and above connected to small and medium company. We are the company that works the most with smaller size or medium sized company. And as a European also, I just see that a lot of innovation is coming from the many companies, small, medium companies that we have in Europe, that can be suppliers of our larger companies or themselves selling to our technologies to other customers. But when we look at companies that we have here in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, in France, in all over the places in Europe, SMEs, medium companies, small companies are really the core of the economy and innovation.
You, as a very large company, well, we're going back over 20 years ago, decided perhaps you needed to change from selling electrical products to being a supplier of digital systems and solutions as well. It was a huge step. It was a brave step as well. SMEs have to make very big, brave steps as well, but the ramifications are enormous if they get it wrong in digitization, aren't they?
Yeah, but I would say the advantage of SMEs are very focused. They know very well their customers. They know very well their technologies. They know very well their business. So the biggest misstep that a large company can do is to become very theoretical about digitization and to go by the books. Because, well, the size makes that you can get disconnected from the reality of your market. What I see is that SMEs are really much more knowledgeable of what they do, and they have much shorter circuits of decision. The second thing is that the world has completely changed. I mean, platforms are already existing out there which allow you to go into a journey of digitization, taking profit of other technologies which are already existing and making your journey much easier and much more secure. This is what we try to propose at Schneider, what we have been proposing at Schneider with what we call EcoStruxure, which is a plug-and-play, I would say, basic kit of digitization where our customers can build. On own EcoStruxure, not only our customers can build their own application, but we invite startups and providers of software and other bricks of technology to complement what we do. And if you go around, you will meet many of those companies. So the ecosystem is becoming larger. And I think digital, to finish with my long answer, is the ultimate place of collaboration.
Collaboration, that's really interesting as well. But look, I'm going to be really brutal here. Big companies like selling to other big companies, or at least medium-sized companies, because they get more revenue and it's easier to sell to one person rather than to 100 or 1,000 smaller companies. And I'm not turning my back on you lot over there, by the way. I apologize if it looks like that way. You can see me on screen anyway. So, but you like to sell to big companies. It's almost easier rather than to thousands of little companies as well. That's a barrier to a company like you and your willingness to sell to smaller companies, isn't it?
No, I think we are the counterexample. We like to sell to many different companies because Schneider was built like this. And I think we've built our access to the market, the relationship with our customers, with integrators, to do that, to be able to deal with many, many specific cases. And that makes that today we are helping digitize very small businesses. It can be restaurants, it can be very small retail chains. I've got example of bread makers in Italy that have increased, or bartender in the Basque Country in Spain, which we are working on securing their power, making sure they would get energy efficiency and more savings. And you do that on a very small scale, but through integrators who carry that to the market. And I don't think there is this perception that big companies deal only with big companies. A company like Schneider is more specialized on dealing with medium-sized companies.
Really interesting you should mention Basque, because one of my recent trips, I was very lucky to go down to Biarritz and this amazing Saint-Jean-de-Luz place, which I now discovered is, it's fantastic. And the Spanish side is amazing as well. But the reason I was in Biarritz was for a G7 meeting. Yeah, Boris was there as well, and Trump. But my point is they didn't raise digitization and technological transfer as a key issue. Do you think global policymakers are taking it seriously enough as an opportunity rather than a threat?
I don't think that today everything that digitization brings has been correctly incorporated by governments in the way it changes the societies. And in all aspects, it's in the way we live together, the way, by the way, we do politics together, but more so in my sector, in the potential, for instance, our business is energy. Mm-hmm. Well, digital is a major radical step change in the way we manage energy. And decentralized generation based on renewable and storage is a total disruption in the way people live with their energy. And when you combine the two, you have the perfect combination for those two to spread and revolution the way we deal with energy. And still, the way we look at it from the political point of view is very much anchored in the past on the old way of doing. So yes, we have to work more on that, and this is why we participate to those meetings, just to bring our ideas on our vision of the future.
Yeah, look, I've got a clock, so I've got to get him in for a couple of very quick questions. He's the busiest man I know as well. Look, one key part that in this amazing panel that we're going to have in a moment that they've all raised is about people. Yeah. And about this fact is that there are very few people in SMEs. It's a real shocker to us all, isn't it? But there are very few people. How important is digitization to that very small workforce, as far as you're concerned, in the list of huge priorities?
I would say it's the biggest opportunity to do far more and to leverage many other resources, because when you plug your company into many other digital platforms, you can leverage, in my case, a platform of Schneider, under which billions of euros have been invested to develop things so that you can build your own layer. And the other thing is that, okay, there may be less people in a SME, but they are very focused. They know very well what they have to do. And digital really enables to be even more focused on what you have to do. So it's a cultural transformation. It's more about people than about technology, because as we said several times, there are plenty of things existing out there which are ready for you, but it's about choosing the right priority, revisiting the way you develop your business, you develop your products, the services you provide to your customer. And the good thing with digital is that you can try small, succeed small, and fail fast, and then find your way by iterative tests. So this is what we've seen. I mean, take our example. We may be a large SME, but when we were 8 billion 15 years ago of revenue, today we are 26 billion. 50% of our revenue today is pure digital. We started from nothing 15 years ago, and we did it on a large scale. And we did it by trying, succeeding, failing, but going fast and adapting.
Well, it was a long answer, so I'm going to get myself in trouble and ask you one more question. I've got a clock on me, you see, so it's already gone 0. And I want to congratulate you, by the way. You cut your carbon neutrality target last week or so. You were at the UN NYC Climate Week as well. Yep. You cut it by 5 years, from 2030 to 2025. That is no mean feat for a big company. I'm not here to be nice to you, by the way, but that is pretty impressive as well. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Thank you. Thank you. We need to do it now.
Yeah, you do. You do need to do it. So my question to you, and to be fair, you didn't get as many headlines as Greta Thunberg, but you did quite well.
I did, yeah, well,
yeah,
no comment on that one.
So look, tell me, climate, digitization, hand in hand, could be a very expensive cost for these small companies though.
I don't think so. I think most of it is savings, and this is a kind of investment that brings a very fast return. The return of investment on investment is the shortest you can do. So first thing in everything, companies are about competitiveness, it's about productivity and efficiency, and take just digital as a step change in everything we do in efficiency. True for large companies, very true for small companies, on new business opportunities.
Do you know, I only had 10 minutes, I took 12. How naughty am I?
Fantastic, thank you for giving me 2 more minutes. That was not very efficient.
Jean-Pascal Toutouet, thank you very much indeed. Let's give him a round of applause. By the way, a bit of housekeeping. I was supposed to tell you there's a translation available if you don't speak English. It's a bit late really, isn't it? Anyway, we're going to do a scene set of video, and then we've got a great panel for you in a couple of minutes' time. Let's roll the tape.
Since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, we have witnessed many a new era of business innovation and progress. These transformative periods can have a great impact on the fortunes of companies large and small, but those who fail to keep up with the pace of change often lose relevance. World-renowned companies that were once household names have lost market share or disappeared altogether. While many businesses have successfully navigated each era's various forms of progression and innovation, many believe the rate of transformation attributed to the fourth industrial revolution will be unprecedented. A new breed of digitally savvy customers has driven a surge for digital innovation and engagement. While many larger companies are thriving, smaller firms often resist change due to lack of resources and capital, leaving them vulnerable and unprepared for any sudden shifts in the market.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of any economy. They make most of the employment, most of the exports.
SMEs are vital to the global economy, making up 90% of all commerce worldwide, but so many of them are fighting for survival.
It's so difficult to be a small business. Today, with the technology, we can empower them.
In Europe, SMEs are responsible for nearly 80% of job creation over the last 5 years. This is even more evident in Spain, where SMEs account for 72.4% of all employment, running above the European average of 66.4%. While Spain has suffered economic turbulence in the last few years, there's been a recent drive toward a robust economic recovery, fueled by new government initiatives to promote increased adoption of digital technology.
For the moment, the Spanish economy is showing quite robust growth. Spanish businesses, maybe not only large companies, but mid-sized companies, have also gone abroad and started to export.
What strategy should SMEs adopt to future-proof themselves? And how can the right digital tools turn these challenges into opportunities? Welcome to the CNBC debate, IoT powering the digital economy. How can digitization enable SMEs to thrive?
Right, bit more housekeeping. I've got to welcome you online, audience online. Okay, welcome. I can just tell you we're on Facebook Live. If you want to have a look at the link, it is www.facebook.com/PG/CNBC International's Facebook page, anyway, on videos there as well. We are streamed also on Twitter, and this debate will be reposted on LinkedIn as well. And if you want to leave comments, if our audience online want to leave comments as well, nice ones, please. No, don't have to be nice. Anyway, look, we've got a terrific panel now. I'm not going to go into a huge amount more detail about the issues we're going to cover. We'll do that naturally as well. But safe to say, there are some very important issues about what do SMEs need to do to succeed. And of course, digitization is only one part of it. Only one part of it, but it is a very important part of it as well. And what does the future hold as well? And I've got a couple of little curveball questions for this brilliant panel, if indeed we get round to it as well. So let me just tell you very, very quickly who we've got here. Amazing people. Fernando Ranz, who is the Area VP at Salesforce. Next to him is Beatriz Remón, who is the Chief Digital Officer, IBM Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Israel. Then we have possibly the most optimistic, happy man in the world, David Tomas, who is the CEO and founder of Cyberclick. Then we have Hanne Jessica Bax, I'm delighted to say, who is EMEIA. Can I not say EMEIA?
Yeah.
Okay, EMEIA, because I thought that was a different acronym. EMEIA Markets and Accounts Leader. Nice to see you as well. And at the end, we have the banker, Javier García-Lluis, who is the Corporate Director and Head of Digital Transformation for Corporates and SMEs at Caixa Bank. And they are doing a hell of a lot of stuff in this area as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give them a nice, easy question to start off, and then hopefully they're going to take it away. You won't hear my voice much. They'll be debating furiously. So let's start off with you, Fernando. This has to be focused on what? Well, I know the answer because you told me, but that was not in front of this lot. So what do we have to focus on in this whole digitization transformation?
Well, from our point of view in Salesforce, we believe that we've been talking for a long time about digitalizations. At the end of the day, we believe that it's not so much about making those manual processes digital, but about changing the way that we run our strategy with the company. And at the end of the day, every strategy in our companies needs to be focused on our customers, because certainly the customers should be the center of any interaction that each of our areas, each of our departments should be concentrating on.
You've got me thinking now, the customer, and I apologize to you lot as well now I'm turning my back on you, so sorry. You've got me thinking, do the customers have digital capacity? Are they wanting this as well? You say it's got to be customer-centric, so you go out and ask your customers, but if you're a small and medium-sized enterprise, that's going to be really confusing with this vast array of customers you have.
Well, it is certainly a challenge for small and medium enterprises, certainly, because they need to do everything that the other companies need to do, but there are much fewer people, as you explained before. So we have an average that a CEO or an owner in a small medium enterprise normally has 6 different hats, 6 different responsibilities. And it's really important how the technologies are embraced by these companies to become competitive, right? Mm-hmm. So from our point of view, we believe there is always a chance to adopt this kind of technologies in a very efficient way. And when we were born 20 years ago, we were already targeting how to improve the way that small medium enterprises could benefit from these kind of technologies. And then we came out with the cloud and all the software as a service solutions to make sure that all this innovation is coming up very, very rapidly, and all the SMEs can benefit from that together with the big and large corporations.
All right. Beatriz Remón as well. I love these conferences. Unlike at Manchester, I have learned a lot already today. And the key barriers, I didn't realize, more for me, more ignorance to me, so I apologize. 97% of these companies we're talking about, 97% of these companies have between, well, how many employees do you reckon? Between 0 and 9 employees. Isn't that staggering? We're talking about tiny companies. This is absolutely pivotal in how they digitize.
Absolutely. So this is very important data that we have here in front of us. And just to say as well that 2 or 3 people in Europe are working for that kind of company. So this is a really amazing data. So based on digitalization, absolutely these companies, what they want is just to bring the better outcomes for the business. At the end of the day, what it is needed for them is just to reach more clients. They have some barriers, more barriers than large companies in terms of regulations, taxes, skills, knowledge. But at the end of the day, what they have to focus, and they are focusing, is in just reaching that kind of clients out there just to grow and to scale.
What I've suddenly had a bit of an epiphany, and like Schneider Electric and pretty much most of the companies you work for want to grow. Small and medium-sized enterprises, of course, want to be profitable, but a lot of people are at small and medium-sized enterprises because they want to be at a small and medium-sized enterprise. They don't want their company to be 15 people, 20 people, 50 people. They like being that size. That's why they've come out of the big conglomerates. And I guess that's really important to understand that maybe as well, that they don't necessarily want 20 people, 30 people. They want to be where they are.
Well, I think that with events like this one, it's a good opportunity just for these kind of companies to merge each other and just to have in an environment with a collaborative situation that which is really at a stand-up point of view right now. So using that kind of platforms, digital platforms and digital economies, it's good for them just to become part of this ecosystem.
Yeah, great. David, Thomas, I said I was going to do no big bios, but I really like David so much. Not that the other four of yours aren't amazing, but I really like this so much. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about it. He's a mentor and business angel to 30-plus startups. His company has twice been awarded the best workplace in Spain. I mean, what do you have to do to be the best workplace in Spain? That's quite extraordinary. This is by Great Place to Work, which is an organisation. And also, but you've also written a book, which I love the name of this book, The Happiest Company in the World. Tell me a little bit about happiness, and I'm going to chuck this in there early stage, happiness, mental health, and digitisation, because does digitisation create happiness?
I think it can. It definitely can, particularly if we talk about how the company is organized. I mean, you were mentioning that a lot of people, they don't want to work for a bigger company, and that's mainly because we know how big companies work. I mean, it's hard, you know, it's a lot of processes, miscommunications, too hierarchic, and I think that's one of the opportunities we have with digitalization, is that actually we can make flatter companies with new ways of communicating and having the chance to change the way we work. So for me, that would be one of the key points, that we should use technology to improve the way we work, to improve our experience, and at the end of the day, that will make us happier.
But I'll let the viewers online, plus you lot here in the audience, into a little secret as well. We also talked off stage about having space away from digitization. And I think this is really important. Digitization can't replace everything. It cannot be that once this SME, this ideal SME, becomes digitized, everything is digitized. You've got to take a step back as well, haven't it? It's got to know its limits.
I'm not sure, I have to say.
Yeah?
Because we're going to live in a world that is going to be all digital. I mean, we were not going to be aware about IoT and everything. So I think it's hard to get away.
Is that going to make us happier? Sorry to interrupt. Look at my kitchen now. I'm terrified of saying anything now, because apparently these home assistants are listening to every word, waiting for that word to be said. Alexa was the word.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess for me, you said I'm optimism. I mean, I am actually, because I think technology, if we use it properly, definitely it's going to help us. The thing is how we use it. And there's no manual. We need to learn to do that. And maybe it's disconnect, or for some other people, it's connecting more, whatever it is. But we have to look for the opportunity to use digital solutions to improve our companies and our life at the end.
Hanne Jessica Bax, recently I was looking at a July article of yours online. Europe needs to play to its strengths. We need to focus on digital fluency and technology skill sets as well. Really interesting. I got through a lot of the article. I didn't read it just now, so give me a little bit more time to read the whole thing. But I got the impression that there are some great strengths in Europe we can play to as well, but we're not necessarily spotting those strengths, and we're trying to compete on the wrong terms.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the speakers here have said there's an issue with the talent, right? So if we don't do something starting much earlier in how we educate our children, because digital is just going to get more pervasive. My worry is we're going to have the same challenge down the road. And so that's why I went for the plea. We can all complain about the fact we lack the right talent. I mean, I have a young kid at home, I guess a lot of us have those children. I look at what they get taught in school, and I'm not sure we're actually teaching them the things that are going to help them to thrive in the next stage or going to give us the right talent. And then the specifics in Europe, clearly, I mean, you talked on the reason you're happy to be here rather than Brexit. I mean, if we don't do things together as Europe, we tap into the diversity, but actually begin to scale some of the education and make sure that some of the majors from really well-known universities can bring the right technology skills. But it starts in the primary school up to secondary and university.
But what are we going to train these kids to do? Because, I mean, I've got 3 of them, by the way. It's nice to get away get some sleep. But I've got 3 of them, and I genuinely don't know what my kids should be learning. Because the glib answer is, oh, they've got to be looking at higher maths, and they've got to be looking at programming and coding. I keep getting told my kids have got to do coding. But there isn't going to be a computer, probably isn't a computer planet now that can't code better than my kids will be able to in about 5 years' time or so. So do we know how to train people for digitization? Have we got a clue?
Well, I probably don't personally have a full clue, but teaching them to learn and memorize all the cities in the world and go through the topography map, I'm not so sure that that's the best use of our time. So I think there's part of it is maybe not the coding, but I think back to what you said, right? How do we use the data? How do we use the technology? And then how do we educate? Because back to your earlier question, I think I'd like part of my life not to be digitized. And I think that's some of the skills, which is creativity, empathy. We just talked about it, talking to each other, communicating, using languages. I'd like that still to be a different skill set. So I think it's understanding the technology and not shying away, but then I think building some of the more softer skills, I find that really important.
Just a quick, you're very lucky. The only person who's got 3 questions so far.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but anyway.
It's like, who should be doing the training? A really open question, and it's a question that we're all parents, well, a large amount of us are parents in this room as well. Who should be doing the training? My nephew's just joined a consultancy. Not your one, one of the others, and one of the other 3. And they are taking him on a massive journey very, very quickly. And I'm very impressed with what they're doing. But why, he didn't learn any of this at school. It's like, shouldn't the schools be picking up some of it earlier on?
Well, I think, which is in my blog, I think between governments, us as the society, SMEs and big corporates, I think that's where we need to play.
Yeah, okay. Javier García-Lluis, I was going to make you the banker at the end and just talk about the barriers to finance and fintech versus what have you. I'll do that as well. But you really piqued my interest talking about timescales to digitization. It was something we talked about in the green room earlier on. Timescales, everyone has this impression, it's breakneck speed. You're actually very reticent to say it's that way, actually. Do you think it's going to take a long time?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question, Steve. Definitely in Caixa Bank we believe that digitalization is nothing that will be for a short time. And Caixa Bank has been working for digitalization more than 25 years ago. We started many years ago, and we discovered that, as my already colleagues say, that they will take a long time because it depends basically on humans. And the speed of the digitalizations will become with the knowledge of the humans and the way that we will include all of this knowledge just in the day-to-day activity. But digitalization, we are more than happy to see that today we are really the society, they are already boosting the digitalization process. They will become an extraordinary effect for the economy. They will help a lot the companies to grow in sales, to improve effectivity, to improve the market knowledge. And for all of these kind of things, it's nothing that will become from today to tomorrow. It is something that will take a long time, but we need to be there.
Is there a danger that you all will go ahead of the customer? You talked about the customer being put key. You're going ahead of the curve. It's like my latest smartphone. It's really good, but it's about 4 incarnations before the current one that's just come out. I really like my smartphone. I can watch all my movies on it. I can do my banking on it. I can take some silly rubbish pictures and do silly things with them and FaceTime my kid in Australia, and I'll do all kinds of brilliant things. But the latest one, I'm told that I have to spend, I don't know, $1,400 or whatever the latest Apple phone is. I'm told that I need this. This is great. Is there a danger that actually digitization is going ahead of the customer? And I ask you this as rather than one of the others to start off with, because you guys are, again, I'm not here to be nice, but I feel like I'm being too nice today. Caixa Bank has 6.1 million digital customers. You've been voted the best digital bank in Western Europe earlier this year by Euromoney as well. So that's great. But are you ahead of your customer, these very small companies?
Come on, it's you are completely right. You know something that today depends on the customer experience and the employee experience. At the beginning, everybody was thinking that to serve the customers, we need to have an extraordinary IT investment, to invest a lot of money as an IT. But we discovered that this is not a topic of IT alone. It's a topic of IT and people. People today is one of the most important things, and we are investing money to understand, first of all, how is the customer interactions with the company, and secondly, to reinforce and empower our employees in order to support our customer just on the best way. This is one of the things that we already changed in the last 7 years. And they are giving us extraordinary results. And my colleagues know very well because they are doing similar things.
Great. Well, look, this is the point where they've had these starting questions. We all get into a bit of a melee. Hopefully, for your sake, be less of me, more of them. So I know, Beatriz, you wanted to come in straight away.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that we have to differentiate those companies that has born on digital already. So it is really important just to split it because it's not the same situation. They are not on the same track. So it's important as well, just for those traditional companies to know that the technology today is really in the hands of everybody. So for the small and medium companies, in the past, just to invest in technology, in innovation, in digitalization was some kind of expense. It was not an investment anymore. And nowadays, you can have access to the technology in the cloud in the same way as a huge corporation has access today. So nowadays, you pay what you spend. You grow, and your access to the technology grow with you. So we are in a very innovative moment, big moment for that companies to scale.
Did you want to come in?
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say that you are never in front of your clients as far as you are providing value. I mean, in our case, we started to do mobile things in 2000, so we were way before the market, and obviously it's because we were not providing the right product. No? I mean, it's to understand your client, and I think this is the key point when we talk about going digital. No? We shift from seeing production as the main core competency that we have as a company, and now it's more understanding our client and providing the right product with the user experience and providing value. And that's a shift. And normally for SMEs, it's hard because you've been doing things in a certain way, but that's one of the competencies we have to bring. Like, okay, we should take risks, and we don't have to be 1 year in front of the market, just a few weeks. A few weeks is enough, just before your competition, and get the mindset of testing. I mean, if we've been successful in any way, other than having great people and happy people, is that we've been testing a lot. I mean, and that's been a core competency of everyone who's joining the company is what we're measuring. Are you willing to make mistakes? Are you willing to try?
Hanne Jessica, I know you want to come in, but that's a really important point, and it tallies with something I've just read, funnily enough. I just finished a book by an English author. He used to be a sportsman, actually, Olympian, called Matthew Syed, and it's called Black Box Thinking. And I don't know if anyone's read it or not, but it's basically saying our attitude to failure has to change. Our attitude to trying things has to change. And the point he raised, many examples, one of them was Dyson, who made these amazing vacuum cleaners. And he said there's about 4,500 versions before he got to the one that actually they put on the market. He failed 4,500 times. It's okay to try stuff and it not work, yeah?
It is definitely, and it's going to happen. No? I mean, the culture we've got in corporations is failure was really bad. No, I mean, you failed and you know where you were heading, right? But it has to change because
the bottom 10% of the company I used to work for.
But unless we take risk and try things, and about digital, it's changing fast. I mean, and if you missed an important movement, it's going to be hard for you to keep up. So you have to try to know that some things you've tried are not going to succeed and are not going to be popular, and users are not going to.
But for small and medium-sized enterprises, for all the reasons we've already discussed, failure could be more costly. Hanne Jessica, you want to come in?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was going to comment on your earlier point on, are we ahead of our customers? I mean, it's very difficult to say there's one customer, right? There's a lot of different people in this world. There's a lot of different companies. And so whether you're a private individual, a small company, or a medium company, people have different wishes, right? I think, and especially in the banking sector, I mean, in my job, I'm very happy I can do lots more stuff online through digital, right? And I would be very happy I told you, I run a small business. I'm very happy I can do the online.
Yeah, I should have mentioned to people, you are an SME as well as working for EY, yes.
Yeah. I run a small hotel on the other side of the world. I would never be able to do that if I wouldn't have digital, right? I've done all my payments online. No money gets exchanged while you're at the hotel. So I can actually do that. And that's why I say every customer will move at different speeds. So I think it's the job of the service providers to actually make sure that people can move at different speeds.
Perfect. Please come in.
I think getting back to your previous point, as you were mentioning, are we perhaps ahead with technology? Do we really need that latest technology all the time? And as you were mentioning, SMEs really can do it today. I mean, also because when we have the customers in front of us, at the end of the day, these customers are also consumers, right? So everybody now is using these devices to communicate with our families, and everybody is using these connected things in the kitchens. So we need to be ready, because when we cross, when the weekend is finishing and when Monday morning we cross our enterprises, why should we change the way we work, right? So as a consumer, our expectations have changed dramatically. But then we go back to the enterprise. It seems like we need to go back 20 years ago. How cannot we, in our companies, or even in the small, medium enterprises, take profit of what the technology can bring and is bringing to us as a consumer, and use that to communicate and to collaborate better with our customers, which is basically our strategy.
Who's there to run the show, to make sure there aren't more blind alleys, to support these companies? One, the obvious answer for me says it has to come in Spain from a government level, from an EU-wide level as well. Does anyone have a strong view on the role of government? I want to talk also about the role of banks as well, but you're nodding as well. So do you want to come in on the role of government to support these companies?
Definitely, it is one of the key points. In the last 5 years, definitely the European economy has already boosted, helping us, the society, with trying to push some regulations that will help us. Today, as everybody knows, we have European regulators, country regulators, regional regulators, local regulators, and it's amazing a number of different connections for all of our small companies that need to be ready to work with. This is an amazing complexity for the small companies. And as you already say, we are the small and medium cap enterprise. They have between 0 to 9 employees. They are really multitasking persons. They need to work with so many interactive companies. Definitely in the last 5 years, the regulators there have been trying to simplify it as much as possible, but definitely our main request to them is please continue working on this way. Try to simplify it as much as possible, the process, because as much as possible should be simplified, the connection with all of these entities. They will improve a lot the productivity of the small companies.
I just worry about the politicians and their focus. Of course I do, I'm English.
Sometimes.
But I mean, they just seem so distracted. In this country here, the government is distracted. In Italy, the government is distracted. In Germany, are they going to spend more money or not? They just seem so reticent in many ways, for good reasons and bad. I don't want to get into the whys and wherefore of the Merkel government, but is this best left with the politicians? Is there, dare I say it, the supranational body of the EU? Is that a better place to get this done? You're saying no. I can tell by your body language.
Well.
But it was just a big no. So even I spotted that.
I think that Javier said about the governments, and I think that if the governments are clever enough to approach the future of the countries, would just have a look to the backbones, as the SMEs are good for us. So, and the government is important, absolutely, and I think that we are so positioned in Spain, at least, with a high impact from the government coming to create innovation hubs, a lot of co-working spaces creation with part of the administrative funds, and it's very important, Javier said before, the banking as well is just supporting that kind of ecosystem in order to go to the SMEs funding.
Yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be much more focus on this by governments. I work a lot with some of the emerging markets where maybe they have a different political system rather than the instability we have in Europe at the moment. And so sometimes the longer term, maybe less democratic systems are actually showing they can digitize. But the problem, I think, is governments need to digitize themselves. And so I see specifically in India, Middle East, they're making leaps forward to digitize government. And I think once government is seeing the benefit of digitizing as well as the power of the economy by promoting entrepreneurship, I think then you get it. And I do agree with you because of a lot of the European tensions, whatever they are, and other geopolitical tensions. Probably there's too many of the politicians focused on that which is on themselves. And maybe the way to say it, there's certain departments, right? The Department of Economy, the Department of Trade, the Department of Infosystems. I mean, in the Middle East, you have a Minister of AI. I mean, that's a ministry, right? I don't think we see that a lot around
and I've spoken to
our
the
parts
Minister
of the world.
AI in the UAE a couple of times. I'll probably speak to him again when I'm back there in November. Look, you just made such an amazing point, and it's something that was echoed to me by a business leader, one of the biggest energy leaders in the world. And I said, why is it that, and I will not name the country, but why is it you can get stuff done in this country? And I thought to myself, well, that's the stupidest question I've asked. I asked a lot of stupid questions, I'm a journalist. Because it is an authoritarian regime. It is a military-based regime, this country I'm talking about. And he said to me, the reason why we're having such success is because they came to us and said, what do you need? Because they're a military government. What do you need? And they gave it to that gentleman. And they gave it to that company. So we're at a disadvantage in democracies, are we?
First, I would say there are two topics I don't like to talk, is politics and religion, but I will go into it. For me, the key point is governments are really slow. Yeah, I mean, there are so many challenges coming in. I don't know, mobility, travel, insurance. I mean, any area, there's a lot of disruption, and governments are really slow. I think they're trying to catch up and provide some support, but I think that the key point would be how we accelerate the change in government and that we can take decisions faster, even though it's a democracy.
Yeah, but it goes back to its enable versus regulate. I think especially at the EU level, we've gone to regulate, right? We've all lived through the beauty of implementing GDPR, which again, I can imagine for a lot of us has been a big pain. So how do we move from regulate to enablement to flourish in the economy?
Really interesting, actually, looking at the second biggest democracy. I don't know, what's America after India, isn't it? So, I don't know, anyway, cut a long story short, it's a big democracy, apparently. Does Salesforce find itself enabled by the structure of the government? Again, I don't want to go too much in government. This will be the last point on government. But is it enabled by the situation in the States as well, where you have federal versus statewide jurisdictions? I mean, we know Salesforce is in every state, and they're in some scale. But good or bad, the setup in the States for doing business and digitization?
I think
it's obviously good, but
I mean, overall, I think the US is still an important hub in terms of innovation, and we are based in San Francisco. We started 20 years ago. Over there, there is still a different way of thinking, I would say. So
better than here?
Different. We're going there very often. We'll have a chance to be there next month, where we have a huge event with 170,000 people going there, like twice the Mobile World Congress that we have here. And the kind of atmosphere in terms of collaboration that you see there, it's not only the US, but I would say even the Californian way of addressing innovation is still different. And that's, I think, allowing a lot of companies to still grow faster. And I think we still, and getting back to that previous point you mentioned, Steve, like being able to failure and being exposed to doing that, we still have a lot to learn on that, because in our culture, I think in Spain, it's so common. You're not supposed to fail, right? So learning from the failure, it's something that we should take. And I think startups are a great example. I always try to mix startups with the small, medium enterprises, because I think we shouldn't differentiate so much. Startups are more the fashion, technology-oriented companies, if you want, but they have so many similarities with the small, medium enterprises. And we should learn much more from what is going on still in Silicon Valley, et cetera, and try to bring it there and be exposed to this kind of...
I did actually do some work on the European Commission digitization report in advance of this as well, and I really liked one part of it. I didn't think I'd like this, but they've got this thing called Second Chance. Anyone know about this? Second Chance for honest entrepreneurs, i.e., if you get it wrong, you shouldn't be punished for it. As actually, there are ways of actually getting entrepreneurs to get back up and get going. It's a very US attitude in many ways. And also, the other thing I liked about the EC report was think small first. It's not just about the big companies, it's about the smaller companies. May I ask about money and access to capital and for digitization?
You've got to go with the banker first.
Well, I thought that, exactly. So I'll go there, then you can all get a chance to chip in as well. But how much of a barrier is access to capital for digitization of small companies? There you go, very vanilla question.
I don't think that today should be a problem, because I have some of the panelists that they know better than I, but today the technology is not so expensive. We can implement procedures that will improve a lot of the capacity of our company in sales, in back office activity, in administrative tasks, that the cost is it's very, very few amount of money for these kind of companies. For example, in order to have a very good web page and to have a very good sales point on the web page, it's something that is not really expensive. It's around 3,000 euros, you can have one. And currently, based on this, in the Spanish Chamber of Commerce, the Spanish mid-caps, they are selling through internet only 26% of the total sales that I am doing. For these reasons, technology and digital transformation is not far away. It's close. But we need to be cautious that we need to go further and to make this big step.
David, would you agree with that? I don't necessarily want to give our banking friend the benefit of the doubt without challenging a little bit as well. And I get that, and I can see what you're talking about, cloud-based solutions and what have you. Again, it clearly is a very competitive environment and great cost. But do you agree that access to capital isn't a barrier?
I totally agree. I agree with the idea that technology is not as expensive as it used to be. I mean, you can get Salesforce, then IBM with Red Hat, Watson. I mean, everything is up to you, and it's not expensive. As for an SME, it was impossible 20 years ago to think of developing any kind of technology. But nowadays, you can compete almost with a big corporation in terms of technology. It's more applying certain knowledge than the technology in itself.
Yes, talking about technology.
In IBM.
In IBM, exactly. I said that before. Technology now is not a matter of expensive or not expensive, but it's a matter of access to the technology. Yeah. The way that we perform now in open platforms, in the cloud, in the multi-cloud, in the hybrid cloud, is something that whoever can have access. Again, to the supercomputing, to inject AI in the data or in the analysis, And at the end of the day, this is the most important thing. So I think that the investment or the funding is not just needed to transform digitally.
So, I mean, I know you want to come in, but I just want to speak to you first, if I may, Hanne Jessica, because it's changed with the way we do our traditional analysis or accountings, looking at companies. And I look at balance sheets, not quite as much as you do, but quite a lot. And I look for the CapEx line on these things as well to see whether the company wants to spend in the current environment as well. But given what you've all just said about the cost of the innovation and the lack of problem of access to capital, maybe I don't need to be looking at the CapEx line so forensically anymore. Do you?
I'm not an auditor, let me just say that. I'm a consultant, so not everybody in this profession is doing audits. No, but I'll come to, I think the difference between a few years ago is a lot of these issues, these questions that entrepreneurs, small, large, medium, have had are very similar. So I think, back to build on your answer, I think there's much more kind of replicable solutions answering to the customers, putting the client at the center, rather than taking the technology and have to go configure. I think that's where most people have melted down, as your example with your iPhone, right? These are much more bespoke, which I think the more we can take reusable, scalable, simplified way of solving the business issues, I think that's a much easier way. Yeah. On the CapEx thing, you and I talked about that backstage. Again, I don't think this is the biggest investment. Yeah. It's the use of it, and a lot of it you don't have to own yourself, back to all the cloud solutions. So how do we tap into that? I think is and maybe that's our combined job, right? How do we make it much easier for the entrepreneurs to tap in, know what the different varieties are, and what is the plug and play, and back to the earlier comment, how do we tap into the ecosystem?
Yeah, come in.
So basically, I think that you were saying how relevant it would be those technologies to be applicable to everybody and to small, medium enterprises, right? And from our point of view, I think that complexity that the new technology normally bring in, it's perhaps only addressable to big enterprises, we believe, right? So we try to mix technology and flexibility, adaptability, make it easy for everybody to use it, right? And then we try to bring it back to the society also, to make it equal and diverse, and try to avoid all those differences that are there, but certainly applicable also to all these beautiful audience here, which are small, medium enterprises. And then when we talk about artificial intelligence, for instance, no small, medium enterprise can have the chance to hire a data scientist, right? Is it stopping them from using artificial intelligence in their processes? How can these kind of new technologies be used in my process? Can a CEO think about, right? We do a lot of studies and research, and this is that around 50% of the CEOs or owner of small, medium enterprises believe that they need artificial intelligence to be competitive in their markets, but nobody knows where to start from. And sometimes it's really difficult to say, how does it apply to our processes? So I think it's, in our case, critical to make sure that we apply those technologies to make it feasible and in every single process that this company runs. Yeah. Because it's, we consider that about 26% of the time every day that a small, medium enterprise is using is used to enter manual information into the system related to their customers. Wow. So obviously just improving this efficiency will allow us to serve better to our customers and have this data scientist beside you, not to replace your position at all, but to improve the way you work, the way you sell, the way you service your customers, the way you market your products.
I was going to say that for me, at the end, technology is going to become a commodity. I mean, it's not going to be any huge advantage unless you understand how to apply it in your company and for your clients. In our case, for instance, it's more than 10 years ago. We are in the marketing and technology space, and we hire our first PhD in math and having a sort of team that come from data science, which nowadays is very common, but 10 years ago, it was quite strange. And it made the whole difference to have a team of people diverse with different backgrounds and with different points of views. And for me, that's one of the key points that we should work as a SME, how I make my team diverse, with different backgrounds and try to understand how to apply that technology and how to make it in our advantage for my industry and my clients.
Do you know what? If I were an SMEs, I just wouldn't focus on technology, that is important, absolutely, but mostly in answering the question about do I am catching my objective on clients? Do I have the right skills in my company? Do I have the right education or culture in order to focus to that business outcome that I want to catch from my clients? Do I have tools to know what my clients are saying about me? Do I have enough information about the client's experience with my products, with my services? I would focus there more than in silos.
Yeah, I think the one part I'm just reflecting, we are talking a lot about running your existing business, right? And running your existing customers. I think that the point we haven't really touched on is how, through technology, you can start providing different services, right? You can tap into different markets. So, and I think when we talk about that, and technology is a lot of things, digital is a lot of things, I always try and kind of make it a bit smaller again to say it's either a lot of efficiencies because I have all this data, and so rather than doing it manual, right, I can save a lot of internal time, which I can focus on development, innovation, spending more time with my clients. But I think the other piece is really, it will allow you to begin to transform the company, and I think the beauty is the agility that you have as smaller businesses, is to actually go back of why you started, which was some of our opening comments, why you started to be an SME rather than go into corporate. It's that it gives you that freedom. But the problem is you could probably get stuck in all the operations of running it and regulations and everything. And I think part of the technology should be the enabler to actually free you up to be back into your entrepreneurial spirit. Otherwise, you might as well do something different. And I'm not sure we're touching that. It feels like it's more the running of operations rather than reinventing part of your solution, your markets.
Right.
Yeah, so perhaps I think this is touching a very important topic about if we are really transforming our businesses with digital, right? If we need to keep doing things the way we are doing, but a little bit better, more efficient, or if we need to think from scratch and perhaps reconsider if there are things that we should do totally different. And Jean-Pascal also mentioned that before, how his company has been transforming in the last few years. And Salesforce, the same, if you want. I mean, we're not a software company at all. It's not the asset of the software. Now we are into a service, and this is becoming a subscription. So we are here today with this audience into the industrial, the manufacturing industries, and certainly also there is a huge opportunity to transform the way our companies operate, and from being a product-oriented company to being a service or even a subscription model, right? And this subscription model can open a competitive aspect that perhaps we are not considering initially, and can broaden our market significantly.
Okay, the technology's failing me because I know that time is wrong. So I've got one quick comment from you, then I'm going to have a final round of questions. So one from you.
Yeah, no, my comment is about disruption, as you were commenting. For me, in an SME, every single week I should be asking, how can I disrupt myself? So how can I disrupt my company? Because if you're not doing it, someone is going to do it. So it's hard to innovate. It's complicated. Unless you have some resources and try to disrupt your company, someone is going to do it.
Let's try something different, ladies and gentlemen. I've got one round of questions left, and I'm going to let you choose. Very technologically biased here. Show of hands if you want the biggest challenge or you want the biggest opportunity. So who wants the biggest opportunity as the final round of questions? Oh my goodness, there's about 5 of you. Who wants the biggest challenge? You can put your hand up. Let's try again, okay, because there wasn't enough there. So who wants the biggest opportunity? And who wants the biggest challenge? Oh, just about. There's a lot of people who didn't want either there. I just wanted to end and get a coffee. But go on in. Biggest challenge. Let's start off with you at the end and we'll work our way along. Biggest challenge.
Yeah, I am agreeing with the audience. It's 50% a challenge and 50% an opportunity. To be honest, it used to be very clever. Definitely, it's a huge opportunity for our sector, for the small companies. It's a huge opportunity to improve in sales capacity, to improve in efficiency, and to improve in quality. But at the same time, it's a huge challenge. Because currently, for example, security is one of the hot topics.
Of course.
And definitely today, we are receiving millions of attacks that our small companies need to be protected. And the digital transformation is security too.
And isn't that an amazing irony that actually if you open yourself up to digitization, you open yourself up to cyber warfare as well and security issues. Hanne Jessica.
Yeah. So I agree with the two sides of the coin. I think I'd go for the challenge, because that was your question. I think the biggest challenge is picking out those three things that you say, this is going to be how I'm going to get my company to the next level, and focus around those. And just all of us focusing on those three things, because we can do everything. I believe in strong focus. I think the selection.
David?
For me, the challenge is in here. You know, it's if we don't stop and as I said before, try to disrupt ourselves, routine is going to kill us, because we know that our company is not going to be doing the same within 5 years. So if we don't prepare today and get this attitude of learning and testing, we're out of the market.
Beatriz?
Absolutely. Well, for me, the challenge would be just to encourage the SMEs in order to give the first step, just with a good ROI maybe in a small phase of the business, just trying to get the approach in order to grow and to scale soon. So that's the best way, just to move ahead.
And finally?
I think that we need to take to destroy this barrier that we don't have the talent in SMEs. We cannot afford that talent. Going back to that topic before, because that talent is much more reachable, and technologies are certainly allowing you to reach that talent. We understood this was really critical, and we opened an e-learning platform called Trailhead that everybody can use to understand how technologies can help them drive this digital transformation. And this is open to everybody. So I think it's not very much on the rest, but on us to go and jump in, as Beatriz was saying, and take that first step and start learning how this talent can be also used in our small.
I liked all your answers, but I like it's in here. Isn't that always the biggest challenge in your own head as well? Look, thank you very much indeed. Javier García-Lluis, thank you very much indeed. Hanne Jessica Bax as well. David Tomas as well. It's been a real pleasure. Beatriz Remón, really nice to meet you. And Fernando Ranz as well. Thank you very much indeed. Let's give them all a big round of applause. And thank you all very much indeed for getting involved in how can digitization enable SMEs to thrive. That's it from me. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.